Hello, my name is Brother Sean for those who don't know me, and I'm an enclosed, contemplative, lay Franciscan monk. My religious family is that of the Catholic Church, a Catholic Christian, but there's a but. I embrace all faiths. That is the core values of the Teo community of St. Francis. An interspiritual lay monastic community at present online, but please God, soon we will hopefully have our field of dreams where some of us can come and live together and work together for peace. The title of the video is Does God Have a Sense of Humour? What do you think? Well, I believe there are two answers that I can give you from my heart. The first is, up until 5 years ago, I would have said, no, God doesn't have a sense of humour. Why would I say that? Well, growing up in Catholic Ireland, I didn't think God had a sense of humour when I was a young boy, when I was being physically abused by a brutish father and then sexually abused in the monastery. And I remember the fear that was imposed upon us as young monks that in training, that if we ever broke any of the silly rules, like using the wrong staircase, or if we dropped a cup, or if we tried to defend our position of trust and service to God, then we would be sent home disgraced. I never thought that God had a sense of humour with that. And then, of course, 14 years ago, when my dear friend died, age 42 of cancer, and 3 months later I crashed, I didn't think God had a sense of humour. In fact, I thought that my God was a vengeful, punishing God to take such a dear friend of 28 years who was like my blood brother. And I certainly didn't think God had a sense of humour when I was prescribed by my friend, who was my GP in Llandudno, Prozac, to help me deal with my depressive state, my anxiety, my uncontrolled tears for my dear friend. And I was a senior nurse in palliative care, supporting people who had issues around death and dying. And then the Prozac introduced me to mental illness, where I was found stark naked in Dublin and I ran up debts to the tune of £22,000. No, God didn't have a sense of humour. Where I'd never been in trouble with the law, and suddenly my manic, disinhibited, disassociated behaviour gave me an invitation to the police because I was out of control. And I didn't think God had a sense of humour, when despite all the clear evidence from psychiatrists, probation officers, psychologists, who said that it was drug-induced, a mind-altering drug, and I was sent down for 6 months in a prison and carried off in a prison van, I remember weeping and thinking, where is my God whom I've given my life to? Did he have a sense of humour? Definitely not. But in the prison, I was very privileged to meet some lovely young men who were filial children who'd never known love. And I began to see things differently, that God did have a sense of humour, because the only place where he could help me heal myself was to take me away from rescuing other people and being a doormat for other people's baggage. Because in prison nobody could ring me, they could write to me. And over the 6 months I learned a very salutary lesson about embracing my wounded child that had been bullied and abused. And for the first time in my life, at 48, 49 years old, I began to realize it was not my fault. So now I accept that God has a great sense of humor. Why do I say that? Because I know on an intuitive level, in my heart, that God is not some ogre in the sky, that he is a loving friend who has spoken to me so many times in silence, to love myself and embrace the divine within me, and to let go of all the negativity, all the pain, all the hurt. Draw a line in the sand, and rather than allow those painful memories destroy my inner peace, where I'm left wallowing in victimhood. But I could say that in 2008, in April, when I went to a friend's wedding, Brother Rob's nephew, who was getting married in Florence, a beautiful time. And then my heart guided me to go with Rob and two others to Assisi, a 3.5-hour train journey, early in the morning. And they agreed to come with me. And it wasn't until I finally found the tomb of Francis, where I knelt and wept, I realized God had a sense of humor, that he would choose me out of all his children. I'm not academically bright, I have no degrees, but what I do have is a life experience from the University of Life. And the situation that I was in then, as I knelt in pure humility in the presence of this great man of God, who in the 12th century did so much for interfaith unity and peace. I had such a love for Francis, but never thought I would ever get to Assisi. But I believe I was guided there. I was meant to be there. Why, I don't know. And then when the feedback I got in my heart from Jesus and Francis to establish the Teo community as an interfaith, interspiritual, lay monastic community where men and women of different faiths and none could come and live together and love the one supreme being, I thought God does have a sense of humor in choosing me, because I felt that there were people best prepared for such a venture, and that people wouldn't take note of me because I wasn't clever enough, because I didn't tick all their boxes. And now in 2012 we hold the vision, and we have a beautiful family of brothers and sisters around the world who gather with us in morning prayer at 9 every morning, and again at 5 in the evening, and for our peace vigil dedicated to Gaia on our live stream channels. And when I listen to some of the guest speakers, I'm so overwhelmed that I said yes to God, that I would do my best. But then, of course, having surrendered my heart, I realized that God has a great sense of humor. To choose me, to accept me in service. As a monk, he must have a sense of humor. But what I'm sharing with you is this. We must always look on the bright side, as the song says. We must try and ignore what the head is saying to us, because my head governed my life for best part of 55 years, and I'm 63 this year. And my head, those negative voices have been saboteurs. But now it is the heart that's in control. And I listen to my heart. And I know that my heart empowers me to come out of my comfort zone as a Catholic Christian and embrace a loving God, regardless of my sexuality, regardless of my belief, regardless of my mistakes. And in my vulnerability and availability, God has shown me that I am loved and that I'm accepted as a child of God. And I don't do the religious thing very well, but what I do is embrace spirituality. In particular, Celtic spirituality. I have a love of nature, hence my love of Francis. I have a love of the animal kingdom, hence my love of Francis. And I embrace God not in lofty cathedrals or posh churches, but in nature, walking through the woods, finding God in silence and stillness. So yes, I would say the Father, Mother, God Supreme has a great sense of humor. especially when you look at my life. And I don't profess to be anything other than me, because for many years as a nurse, I always had to rescue others because of that loneliness in my heart. Now I'm not lonely, I'm fulfilled. Are you? So the question I put to you is, do you see God having a sense of humor? Thank you.